So, hey there, folks. This is episode number 5 of For the North. I am PJ.
I'm Chris.
And we're here to talk about everybody's favorite thing, the NFC North. Maybe outside, maybe not outside of the Midwest, but.
Well, let's start off with the Lions versus Kansas City game. Aside from the penalty controversy,
Yep.
I don't care if there's penalty controversy. You still need to play well enough to win. And you know what? Everybody who says, like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, like, this doesn't, has never happened to your team before. It's happened everywhere. For the Vikings, the most famous example will be 2009, and I'm not going to speak of that game. But the thing is, they beat themselves just by making boneheaded moves on both coaching and the play from a certain quarterback who PJ and I have both suffered heartbreak from now.
Yeah, a shared history we have with that certain quarterback.
Right. If you're the Lions, you're one of the teams that is going into Kansas City saying, oh, we're one of the teams from the NFC North, and we're this big, bad team that should be in first place. We just had a fluke game versus Green Bay.
It like the way that it was talked about, or at least the way that we've been talking about or I should say the media has been talking about the Lions and their offense and what they've been doing, is they are, it kind of flipped in this way where they're like, oh, okay, the Lions have gone back to being the NFC North contender, and they should have aspirations with their offense to make a deep run to be in the NFC Championship, and even talking about them in that Super Bowl stratosphere. I feel as though that has shifted in the last week or two here. We talked about the performance against the Bengals, where it was a bit lackluster in terms of what happened and how they let the Bengals get back into that game at the end, and didn't really have the kind of dominant offensive performance that we have been used to, right? We also talked last week, on the last episode, I should say, about the quality of opponents that they've been playing. Like this to me, we discussed this. This is the first true test that they really had, like a true contending team that has what I would call a dominant offense, right? Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He has Travis Kelce, who's still a very talented tight end, and Xavier Worthy and Juju Smith-Schuster and Hollywood Brown, Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco. So they have a very talented offensive roster. They also have a very talented head coach. So this was, I think, kind of the first time where we saw that the Lions couldn't rely on the kind of gritty Dan Campbell magic that has been their calling card for the last few years now. Like you said, there was a lot of head-scratching moments to me, specifically like the one that comes to mind, and we talked about this before we hopped on. The play, the pass to Jared Goff, where he lines up or goes in motion and takes kind of what I would consider a fake snap and then rolls out into motion on the left side of the play, catches the ball, and it's ruled a touchdown and then kind of later reviewed and removed as a touchdown. And I think that from the get-go kind of shaped what this game was going to be, right? That
Yeah, the play looked kind of awkward to me when I rewatched it. It was I don't know. I don't know the specific rule on what happened, but I could tell, like, when it happened, something wasn't right, that it wasn't quite a legal play.
yeah,
But that's the same thing. Like, if you're going to call that an illegal formation and have an illegal shift, why not do the tush push when everybody, is offside, like offensive, or false starting
yeah.
on the offense?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this last week, how so far the officiating has been incredibly inconsistent this year. And we're not, sitting here trying to make this about the officiating, but like there was
Games are rigged.
it's rigged. It's rigged for the Chiefs. I mean, like you mentioned, there have been a fair share of games that both you and I and others that are fans of NFC North teams or even other teams have experienced where there's that gripe about the refs, right? And I don't want to sit here and make it about the refs, but I just, again, I go back to this idea that the Lions for a few years now have relied on this kind of, Dan Campbell, the Dan Campbell offense is a very odd mix of things, right? He has good running backs. He has talented wide receivers. Jared Goff is a solid quarterback, but I don't understand this heavy reliance that they have on running kind of gadget plays or jet sweeps or kind of weird motions or even trick plays to make big kind of chunk plays or big moments happen in games. I don't feel like that's a sustainable model to propel you to a conference championship or a deep playoff run or even a Super Bowl. It's just not something that's sustainable because eventually teams like Kansas City or other teams that are contenders are going to figure that out and they're going to learn how to scheme to stop it.
Yeah, and I don't know. Their offense has been lackluster this season. There's no other way to put it. They haven't put up the big numbers. They haven't been playing quite as well versus great teams or even good teams. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens, but
Yeah.
I think the bottom line is something's got to be done about the play calling, and it's got to be simplified just a little bit. You don't need to run these big trick plays to win ball games. I mean, we've seen it with every other team in the NFC North, how they're keeping it simple and still finding ways to win.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you make a very good point about the play calling. You make a very good point about their offensive performance. Like, I just kind of go back to this idea of like the Lions have been beating the teams that they're supposed to beat handily, right? And we're talking about an offense last year and even the year before that was scoring, they averaged 30 plus points a game. So it's not like they're an untalented offense. They have the players at the skill positions at every level of this offense to be successful and beat a team like the Chiefs. We talked about this last week, the fact that that Bengals game exposed them a little bit. And I think the formula is if you can stop Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery and make this a one-dimensional pass-only offense where you put it in Jared Goff's hands, he has shown that he is not the most mobile quarterback, and he's not the best decision maker when it comes to pressure coming from the defensive side of the ball. And that was evident when kind of Chris Jones on the Chiefs side kind of took over this game from a defensive standpoint and really kind of made it a big problem for the Lions offense to function in that game on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't think we need to say much more about it. On to the Packers versus the Bengals. Again, another offense that didn't look quite up to par with where they should be. There were just a lot of key moments where they could have picked up a first down or could have gotten the yardage to at least score a field goal. If you're going to play game management, that's fine. However, if you're not scoring points, it's just, I don't know. It's just not. Well, let me put it simply. You can't you can't win if you don't score.
What? I wasn't aware. No,
Especially against teams that will punish you
right,
for
exactly.
doing things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I there's kind of two things that I come out of this game really thinking and kind of chewing on here, from the offensive side of the ball specifically. Like, first and foremost, we have seen that the Packers offense has these flashes or these moments where they can be truly dominant, right? Like, we saw it against the Cowboys where every time that they needed to go and score a touchdown, they marched down the field and they did it. They got the touchdown. And that Sunday night football game against the Cowboys was thrilling. And then we've had moments or quarters or halves of football games against the Lions and the Commanders where we're like, oh my God, this offense is clicking on all cylinders. This is amazing. And then they'll have this other kind of moment where the spirit of Brett Favre possesses Jordan Love and he throws a head scratching interception by rolling right and throwing across his body. Or you have these moments where the play calling is incredibly conservative when it needs to be. Play calling needs to have more urgency, and it feels at times, and this is just my perception, and I don't think if you asked LaFleur if he was putting intentionally kind of putting the brakes on and holding back Jordan Love, I don't think he would admit to it. But I do think at times I see the play calling from Matt LaFleur being conservative and wanting to stray more towards that game management. Let's, play to not make a mistake, play to not lose. And I would much prefer the other side of that coin where the Packers were more aggressive and took chances. And even if that means that you come out with a loss, I would be more satisfied with a aggressive approach to offense from the Packers, because we've seen that they have the players in Romeo Doubs and they have the players in Josh Jacobs and Tucker Kraft and Jordan Love. We've clearly talked about him being a talented quarterback. So they have these skill position players that should be able to do better on offense, and so it's I came out of the game on Sunday feeling a little bit frustrated and a little bit kind of confused about what I'm supposed to think about the Packers as a whole right now. I said it before we hopped on. I was never concerned that the Packers were going to lose the game, but I did not feel comfortable at any point during that game with the way it was functioning. So,
yeah, and we'll keep monitoring the situation in Green Bay over the next few games here, because I think these next stretch of games are really going to help shape the season and the way the NFC North will shape out towards the end.
yeah.
Let's shift gears now and talk about the Bears. Bears, even though I'm still not convinced that the Bears are going to be playoff contenders quite yet, I do want to admire Caleb Williams' play.
Yeah.
He was one of he hasn't looked it right for the last couple of years, but now he's improved. He went 21 for 32, 277 passing yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That is a pretty good game.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good game, but I also don't think that the Commanders are the greatest team to test your strength against.
Yeah.
I really want to see what they look like versus a AFC or NFC contender here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, so kind of the question mark that you have about the Bears right now is like, again, kind of that same thing that we've talked about with the Lions. Like, it's like, have they really played a true contender? And right now, I mean, looking at their schedule and who they've played so far outside of like the Lions, the Vikings, you could kind of argue are in that kind of, they are a contender talk. But right now, their schedule so far has been against kind of that mid-level, lower-tier opponents. Um, early on in the season, the Commanders were kind of considered to be one of the favorites in the NFC East. They were, a playoff team that went all the way to the NFC Championship last year. So, like, at the beginning of the season, with a healthy Jaden Daniels, with everybody on offense and defense being healthy, that's a contending team. But that kind of over the last few weeks has shifted. I'm looking down the Bears' schedule and I'm trying to see here. It's not really until later on, until we get till the end of November, when they play they play the Vikings, the Steelers, and the Eagles, and then the Packers back to back to back to back. So there's this 4-game stretch and the end of kind of that middle of November to the end of November where we're going to figure out truly if the Bears are a playoff contender. And the way they're playing right now, it's not a sustainable model to continue winning this way. I really just don't think you can continue to pull victory from the jaws of defeat. You're not going to have games where you constantly have 3 turnovers or you block a field goal at the end. So it's just this model of offense for me, for the way that they're playing, does not give me confidence right now that they're a playoff contender. Maybe that will shift down the road. My other question that I have is kind of like, my question for you is, what do you see right now, kind of where we're at in the schedule? What do you think the Bears kind of ceiling is right now? Like, is it under a new coach, under a new kind of system? Do you think that the ceiling is like make the playoffs, or do you need to win a playoff game? Like, what's the ceiling here to measure a successful season for them?
Well, I think you need to make the playoffs and then also make it a close game.
Okay.
At least a wild card round.
Yeah. So I mean, so you're saying like, okay, you make the playoffs as a wild card team, and even if you were to come up short in that wild card game, if it's a competitive game, then that we're kind of using that as the measuring stick for success for the Bears this year.
That's what I would see this year, just because of how bad they were last year. They need to get it together, to put it lightly.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think this game for the Bears specifically, like if you recall last year, the Commanders game was a real heartbreaker for the Bears that ended on a Hail Mary pass, which, by the way, you wanted me to remind us that we have a bit of trivia for.
We have a trivia question.
We have a trivia question, a little audience participation for everyone.
Something that we're going to try. So if you like our show, first off, down below, please like and subscribe, and then when we are eventually up on other mediums, we will let you know how to like and subscribe that way, though. We'll see with the Bears.
Yeah.
No, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, but I like kind of where your headspace is at with the Bears, that we'll certainly see from this week. So I did kind of want to do for this show a bit of a first quarter of the season check-in from a standing standpoint and kind of discuss kind of the state of the NFC North currently. We've all the teams have hit their bye week. As it currently stands after what we're, 5, 6, we just got through week 6, so we're beyond the quarter mark of the season. We currently stand with Green Bay in first place, 3-1-1, Detroit in second place at 4-2, Minnesota in third place, 3-2. Chicago is in last place at 3-2 right now. So
I feel if you're the NFC North, you're feeling really good about where your teams are at right now, because there have been some tough games. And if you're the Vikings, Lions, or Packers, for those tough games, you've kept them close. If you're the Bears with the new system under Ben Johnson, you've also kept the games close, and you won literally last minute by 1 point versus last year, where they weren't able to quite do that in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
We shall see with the Bears. But I think right now, because it still is a long season, the NFC North is wide open.
Yeah. Oh, I would 100% agree with you on that statement. Like, I do not at this point see a really clear favorite. There's kind of, to me, there's 3 teams. I think Green Bay, Detroit, and Minnesota are all very much in it right now. It's going to depend on how the conference games stack out. It's going to depend on how kind of this middle stretch of the schedule for each of those teams, the Bears included, is going to play out. So I am incredibly thrilled right now that the NFC North happens to be it's actually the only division with 4 teams with winning records currently.
Nice.
So again, it's shaping up to be, again, one of the most, if not the most competitive divisions in the entire NFL.
Yeah, I mean, and there were a lot of people saying at the beginning of the season, like, oh yeah, I don't see 3 teams making the playoffs again this year, haha. And I'm like, well, maybe actually, like, they've been playing well. Let's jump. And with that, let's jump right into predictions, because I see the Bears have an interesting yet very winnable game to start versus the Saints. With that one, I mean, I like the Bears better than I like the Saints for that one. There's the Saints have been a mess ever since Drew Brees left. So I'm going to go with the Bears by 10.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that consensus. I'm seeing kind of this, 10 to 14 point victory. Like, the Bears should be able to take care of an inferior opponent and walk out of Soldier Field with a victory. This is a noon game, kind of typical for that kind of matchup. It's not the most thrilling of matchups, but it's the Bears and the Saints, right? That's right now not the most exciting, but either way, I pick the Bears to win 10, 14 points. They should take care of it and go to 4-2 in the division. Kind of hopefully keep pushing to make this competitive up to the very last week of this.
So Packers versus Cardinals. Let's talk about it, PJ. What are your predictions?
Well, so this is a game. This is kind of a stretch of road games for the Packers. They have, a couple coming up here where they're going to have to travel to. Yeah, they're going to have to travel to Arizona. Then they have to travel to the Steelers. I always think Arizona is a bit of a challenging place to play. It's just, the stadium there. I want to say State Farm, but I'm probably wrong on that. But the Arizona's stadium is a challenge. Just typically for the Packers, been a challenging place to play. because of what we talked about on the offensive side of the ball and kind of the just a little bit up and down nature of it, I see this being closer. It does help that Kyler Murray is not playing, but I'm going to go Packers by 7.
Uh, so with all the things that you just mentioned, you were right about the stadium, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I feel the Cardinals could edge out a victory in this one just with how loud their crowd gets.
Yeah.
But if I'm being realistic, it's probably Packers by 3.
Okay.
My only reason being is I don't know what version of Jordan Love I'm going to get, and I'm not sure how the run game is going to perform. So we're going to have to see.
Yeah, I mean that's been another kind of head scratching thing about this year's Packers offense is that what was kind of a dominant piece of the offense last year has taken time to get rolling. It feels like it often takes a quarter, maybe 2, even a half of football for the running game to take root or literally gain ground. I agree with that assessment there that it's certainly could be a closer game than we think. I mean, heck, I was right about the score prediction last week when I said 27-17, right? So
yeah.
maybe maybe until kind of things get figured out, it's Packers are going to have to play some kind of sweated out close games, So we'll see how comfortable I am come Sunday around 3. That's another afternoon. That's a 3:25 game. So that will be.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So we have the Vikings and Eagles.
Big match.
So I'm going to say it's at US Bank Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Vikings have the advantage. I'm going to go Vikings by 7.
Okay.
Just because of what I've seen from the offensive play. And I feel like the defense, like if I got to go between the better of the two defenses right now, I've got to pick the Vikings over the Eagles.
Okay.
The Eagles still have a solid defense. It's just what I've seen this group be able to do, especially with injuries, has been phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're getting some key players back. Well, actually, I know they're getting some key players back.
Yeah.
One of them is Blake Cashman.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens. We're still not sure on Van Ginkel yet. I think if he plays, that's even more of a big advantage for the Vikings defense. And with the Vikings offense, I think if they make those quick plays, like they did versus one of the top defenses in the NFL going into the bye week, they should be in pretty good shape. I'm going Vikings by 7 on this one.
Okay. All right. Well, I like that prediction. So over the course of a couple of weeks, the kind of the way that this matchup sets up and how I felt about it and ultimately how I'm going to make this prediction changed over the last couple of weeks, because in the last couple of weeks we saw the Eagles, who we thought were to that point before losing to the Broncos and then getting beaten badly by the Giants. We thought, kind of they were one of the kind of top contenders in the NFC. We had this kind of perception that on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, they were hard to beat. What I'm seeing more now is the Eagles' run game struggling, even with Saquon Barkley. They're not generating explosive plays in the passing game. They're not generating explosive plays in the running game like they were on
their O-line has been awful as well.
Yep.
Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're fine. No,
atrocious.
Yeah. O-line play has been terrible. So we're not seeing the version of the Eagles that made that playoff run last year and ultimately went on to win the Super Bowl and beat the Chiefs by a lot of points, right? So this is a different Eagles team, and my perception has changed. That slanted me more towards the Vikings in my prediction. I agree with you. US Bank is a distinct home field advantage. Getting defensive players back is certainly going to be a key to helping Brian Flores call plays and have a successful game plan.
Along with two offensive linemen potentially returning. Though I will say that makeshift O-line against the one of the best pass rushers in the league was pretty impressive.
Yeah, no,
Not gonna lie.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What that patchwork offensive line did against the Browns last week was phenomenal. Phenomenal work from Kevin O'Connell and the coordinators on the offensive side of the ball. No, I really like this matchup for the Vikings now. I think you get. I think this could possibly be the game where Jordan Addison finds his stride and kind of settles in, and Justin Jefferson has a big game. I'm gonna agree with you. Vikings by 7. I think this has kind of been the game that's circled on the Vikings schedule. They want the revenge. They want to get the victory and beat what is still a very good Eagles team.
Right. Well, and let's look at the Eagles' defense from last year to this year. So Eagles' defense last year.
I think they led in a number of key statistical categories last
Yeah,
year.
they were ranked number 1 in the NFL.
Yeah, yeah. They had like down that stretch run, right? When they got into the playoffs and they played the Packers and then they played the Commanders and the Rams. That at every stage of the playoffs, their defense was a huge key to their victory.
Right, and now they're 15th in the NFL.
That is
and
a
20
steep.
in points allowed and 25th in rushing yards allowed.
Yeah.
So
That
they're going to have a tough day if they cannot contain Jordan Mason.
Yeah.
I know he had a fumble last time.
Yep.
And almost the time before that. But those were against two very good defenses with two excellent defensive coordinators.
Yeah.
And what I want to point out here as well is there's one guy who's going to want to. Well, there's two guys actually who are going to want to prove themselves versus a team that let them both go after they both had pretty good seasons, and that is Carson Wentz.
Yep.
And on the other side of the ball, Isaiah Rodgers.
It's going to be a really good matchup. Like these, and we talked about this before we popped on the podcast. These Eagles and Vikings matchups since that NFC Championship game have been really closely contested, really thrilling games. A number of them in prime time. A number of them with playoff implications on the line or seeding implications on the line. Like these Vikings-Eagles matchups have been really freaking fantastic to watch, and unfortunately for the Vikings, have gone in towards the Eagles. They have been the ones that have been the victors and have kind of enjoyed the spoils of that, and I think it's the Vikings are due in this one. I definitely think they're due for a victory here.
And expect this one to be nasty as well.
Oh,
just expect it to be a bloodbath throughout the entire time. Sit down, grab your popcorn, hang out for a while, because those 3 hours are probably going to be brutal for both sides of the ball.
I like that it's a noon game. That's going to be a really interesting noon game. But I'm almost surprised that they did not make it a 3:25 game, or even
a Sunday night game,
or even a Sunday night game. Like, because I'm like looking at what is the Sunday night football game this week? Oh, Falcons 49ers. That's exciting. real exciting.
We'll see. We'll see if Michael Penix can surprise. Like,
No,
he has spurts where he's really good.
he does.
But
Yeah, I mean, I just like I said, I as a football fan would prefer the Eagles, the Vikings Eagles matchup to be in that primetime slot in the Sunday night football slot. You know,
yeah, I get it.
but you know,
I mean, we could talk about that all night.
I don't make the schedule, right?
Right. So Lions and Buccaneers, with the way that Baker Mayfield has been playing, I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers by 7. Just because I think they have been, to me, they look like the better team right now. To me, they look like they're wanting to compete, whereas the Lions are still a decent football team.
Yeah.
However, I think that the Buccaneers really know who they are, and they're going to come out and kind of check the Lions a little bit.
So I think the way that this matchup, the way that Baker has been playing, the way that the Buccaneers have been playing over these first few weeks, I am under the firm belief that the Lions are staring down the barrel of another loss, and they're going to come out of this 4-3. Baker has been brilliant, nothing short of MVP candidate level play from him. The Tampa Bay Bucks have been thrilling to watch, honestly. I'm not a huge NFC South fan, outside of when Drew Brees was a New Orleans Saint. But I can get behind Baker. Baker is the kind of quarterback that I would, if I could not have Jordan Love, I would very much like Baker Mayfield on my team. I'm gonna go big here, big point spread. I think Bucks come away from this with a 14-point victory.
I was gonna go Bucks by 10, so you and I are in the same boat on that.
Kind of, yeah, in that same boat, yeah.
And you know what? That defense is also pretty aggressive. So if there are some key injuries for the Lions afterwards, not saying that there's going to be, not saying that I'm hoping for anyone to get hurt, but I'm saying if there are, I'm not even sure who they have after Jared Goff in their depth chart.
That's a really good question. Hold on. I can pull up that information. For a time, I'm going to get this right information here. Behind Jared Goff is Kyle Allen.
Okay. Name I have not heard of. I knew it was Teddy Bridgewater for a while there.
Yeah.
But he retired, then unretired, and now it's,
He must have, I don't think he's ever really played as a couple. Yeah, I think he's might be a rookie from.
Okay.
Oh, nope, that is completely inaccurate. Don't listen to what I say. It's right up here at the top. This is his 7th season. If I could just read the ESPN information correctly, I could accurately tell you about the backup quarterback.
Right.
He's in his 7th season. Just not a lot of game action that I've seen from him. So this will be interesting. But I like the Tampa Bay Bucks to kind of win this big and again kind of expose the Lions a little bit to kind of stick it to Dan Campbell and say, hey, you're not as magic as you think you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, we'll kind of see how that unfolds this weekend. I think we hit all.
Yeah, we covered all of them.
We moved quickly tonight.
Right,
that doesn't happen for us normally.
Well, it really depends on how much we have to talk about, and there really wasn't a whole lot based off all of the previous commentation on. Oh, well, this defense needs to get better. This offense needs to step up. They need to play complementary football. We could go over and say the same things every week, though we'd prefer not to.
Yeah, no.
well,
we don't really need to repeat things that have already been said.
right. All right. So, with our trivia question, after this, we'll sign off. One of the most famous plays in the NFL right now is the Hail Mary. Where was the first Hail Mary thrown? What two teams were involved? Who threw the first Hail Mary? And what was the controversy afterwards?
Ooh, that's a loaded one. That's a loaded one. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the answer right in front of me. Hey, bonus points if you can name the wide receiver that the quarterback threw the touchdown to.
And bonus points if you can build a time machine, go back in time, and you know what? I won't. I feel like I'd give too much away there, but we'll.
Yeah, I was like, no, don't give it away, Chris. Don't tell him too much. So we'll leave you with that. If you'd like to, please engage and comment below with your answers. And we're not going to guarantee that you're going to win a prize because we don't have the budget for that.
But in the future, we might just maybe.
You know what? We'll give you a shout out. We'll give you a shout out. If you answer the question correctly. So
Don't be a cheater. Try to answer it without looking it up. Yeah. Don't be one of those trivia people that says I got a perfect score when I looked it up on my phone, and I'm like, don't take the fun out of this, please.
Only when the host is terrible do we condone cheating. With that, but again, the question to recap, because we did a little bit of a tangent there. When did the first Hail Mary happen? Who were the teams? Who was the quarterback? Name the wide receiver for bonus points.
Where was it?
Where was it?
What was the controversy of it? Who threw it? And actually, you know what? I didn't say this. And what is the landmark that stands there today?
Ooh, even more. This is some great trivia. Well, you know what? We will reveal the answer on our next episode. So you're just going to have to tune in to see what that's all about and find out if you got it right.
Have to listen to us again for at least 5 minutes.
At least five. We'd love it if you listened for like 10 or 20.
Maybe we should just sprinkle it the answer and just like not have,
We'll just give
our listeners know
one part of the answer, every few minutes. We'll just be like, well, this was the quarterback.
Could you imagine?
And at the very end of the podcast, oh man. Well, this has been a blast. It's always good to have everyone listen. Thank you so much for engaging and liking and subscribing. Thank you for listening to us. This is For the North, and we'll see you all next time.
Peace.